Yo, this is Ray Brooks.
Hey, this is Big Lou. That's double L-O-U.
Hi, I'm Veronica Jackson.
Hey, everybody, this is Adam Gusso.
I'm Dietrich Farr.
Hey there, folks, this is Don Fleming, the American songster, slapping the dap with Jack Dapper.
Hi, this is Guy Davis.
Hi, I'm Shamika Copeland.
Hey, I'm Ben Turner of Piedmont Blues. I'm here with Valerie Turner.
And we are bluesing with Lamont Jack Burley.
Hi, I'm Larry Griffin, and I keep it locked and loaded on Jack Dapper Blues. Yes, yes, yes.
What's happening, blues people? I'm right now sitting in Times Square in front of Caroline's with a guest that we've been trying to get this podcast together for some time, Odysseus Bailer. He is definitely the major in what's known as Blues Dance New York. So we're going to talk to him about that, as well as some of the other interesting things that he's doing in the blues and cultural community, because he was just in a play. You were just in a play, correct?
Yes, and hello everyone. Yeah, so I was in an off-Broadway play in February of this year, so that was a while back ago. But I do have something soon coming up that I can't speak of as of yet, but it's also kind of cool as well.
Okay, well, we'll get into that as well in regards to the February play, because I believe you told me it was blues-based. But before we get into that, let's talk about your organization. Give us a description. Break it down for us.
So Blues Dance New York is our weekly blues dance here in New York City. I'm actually not so much the founder of it, but just one of the organizers or administrators. I teach and I DJ at the event a lot and at the dances. So Blues Dance New York is a way for people to come together to blues dance, and we have it every Friday. And the last Friday of the month, we have a live band, and we have the dance over at La Nacional.
Now, for those who don't know, because for some people the term blues dance might be foreign, because a lot of people do not know the wide range of blues as a culture and as a music. Some just think Chicago, some just think Piedmont or pre-war. What actually is blues dance?
So blues dancing, it's a collection of idiom dances done to blues music, like your fishtail, your mooches, your grinds, your lowdowns, your Texas shuffle, and we're learning more new idiom dances every month and every year. So there's a plethora of them. Since this dance wasn't highly that recorded, it was more by word of mouth. So having actual documentations of these different dances are extremely hard to come by. This dance precedes Lindy Hop in every sense. So just that Lindy Hop became more of a popular dance style nationwide, even though they were blues dancing at the same time as well. It just wasn't all that recorded that much. I'm
sorry, I did not mean to cut you off, but I just want to establish, would blues dancing be considered a cultural dance of African American and its people in the South?
Yes, yes it is. It definitely has its origins or its seeds of influence in the South or in rural parts of America. So yeah, it's definitely origin in African American culture and indigenous cultures. Definitely in juke joints, at also house gatherings as well. So these were the kind of movements that you would see at those places. Now something to understand is that each region of the country had its particular style of dance that it did the majority of, and we're still kind of learning a lot of, or at least I'm still kind of learning a lot of like what region did, what kind of dance they did predominantly in whatever particular region. But just because they did one particular dance doesn't mean that they didn't get the influences from other parts of the country and kind of infuse other blues idiom dances into their own dancing as well. So that's one of the things that I always keep in mind whenever I do the research behind the music and the dance.
So is it safe to say that the many migrations from the Koffel gang to the actual fleeing of the South throughout the United States plays a role in how some of these dances either meshed or found its ways to different regions.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. You can't ignore that aspect of cultural history with that. So yeah.
What I find really interesting, and a lot of information in regards of documentation of African American history, whether it's names, ages, or what have you, has not been recorded. How did you guys come across these dances, and how do you go about researching?
Well, the research is extremely time consuming because, as you know, you have to just make sure that your sources kind of match up as close as possible. So in that way, when you're relaying the information to other people, they can, kind of see where a lot of the information matches up. And also, to another individual that's really helped what's the word I'm looking for? Help us all kind of really learn like these idiom dances, so we can do more of the research of our own. Whereas an individual by the name of Damon Stone, I don't know his name, probably came across in conversation, but he has been a really big influence in us learning these different idiom dances since he learned a lot of it from his grandparents growing up, and they kept a lot of information and things like that. So that's where a lot of the information comes from, but also just from individuals like myself and other individuals in the blues dancing scene have, taken upon ourselves to actually do our own research and see what we could find as well. So it's a collection of all of us just digging in and just finding as much as we can to kind of relate to it, and then assimilating that information the best way we can to the rest of the community.
Well, I like this that much more because and correct me if I'm wrong, what I'm receiving is the way you guys come across this is generational. This is something passed down through the family, yeah?
Yeah, but like a lot of African American culture, art forms, this dance is a vocal, like an oratory, like passed down of heritage and form, right? Mm-hmm. So either way, it's like whether it's one of those things of like just watch and do, or just do it and then we'll worry about the technique in a little bit. But let's just see how the music moves through your body, and then we'll go back to it, but always coming back to feeling the music first. So this dance, and like a lot of other cultural art forms, is a art form that is based on monkey see, monkey do kind of situation, right? When you're a kid, you're watching your parents and older siblings and older adults moving around, so you start to move around, right?
Right.
And then you might have that one uncle, that one family member, or that one friend like stops you and goes, no, do it like this, and then they will show you, and then you copy that. Not so much emphasizing or stressing too much the technique, even though technique is very important when learning any dance form. Untainted form, it's really more of a monkey see, monkey do, watch what I do it, and then we'll go back and worry about all the little details.
Well,
that makes sense.
No, it makes a lot of sense, because that also, ironically enough, gives it an even stronger connection and correlation to the blues, because the musically, that's how the blues operates. Technique, like you said, is extremely important for any a trade or craft that anyone is working on. Mm-hmm. But in the same token, blues is more of a feel, a watch what I do, pick it up, and then take it from there. It's really deep, for lack of better terms, and to keep it very layman. It's a very deep connection.
Yes, it is a very deep connection. Something that I've learned throughout the years as well, because I didn't grow up listening to blues music or jazz music for that matter. I grew up listening to Motown and soul music growing up from my parents. So listening to blues music myself, it took me a while to train my ears to learn how to listen to that style of music. So, which means that I had to listen to a lot of, not so good blues songs, but but it was definitely well worth it in the end. And then also understanding the cultural history and context behind it as well, and how influential it was, really kind of helped solidify and give a bigger picture for me to understand this music and culture art form.
Well, that's interesting to me, that genre-wise, because everything sold to us or presented to us in regards of genre. But as I grew, and the more I listened, because I grew up listening to Motown as well, and Stax, because I was, if we're in the same age range, that's what our parents listened to. Mm-hmm. But there's no real difference, some nuances, but there's no real difference between those music and blues. Like if you listen to some Smokey Robinson tunes, it's definitely blues. At least to me, I'm a little shocked that you make a distinction between the three: soul, blues, and Motown. Which
well, that's just, that distinction. Sorry, words. That distinction is really just more of just music structure just changing at that time, right?
Okay.
It's still that whenever I say that, I'm really just thinking of just the structure of the music, how music structure changes over time, and the sound of it changes over time as normal. But as far as relaying whatever kind of message, it is the blues from like soul and R&B and gospel, like all of that is they're singing the blues, especially at that time,
right?
In American history, when things weren't going so great for not just for Black Americans, but for any minority group, which is why blues music is so universally accepted as well with like soul and jazz and gospel and R&B, is because everyone can relate to it in some way, shape, or form with their own personal lives.
Right. So how did you get? It sounds like you have been a dancer and a teacher of dance for some time. How did you get connected into this blues New York dance organization?
I got connected to, well, at the time, what we were calling blues at the time, because we really didn't have a lot of information on it whatsoever. But I got into it by way of Lindy Hop. I'm a Lindy Hopper. Okay. So that's how I got into it. And a friend was asking me if I ever blues dance, because my movements on the dance floor while Lindy hopping was, according to them, a little smoother than most dancers. So I tried it, and then I had a really good friend of mine use me as a guinea pig to start teach, because she wanted to get into teaching. So she used me as a guinea pig, and then it just took off, from there. In the beginning, I really didn't understand why I was doing the movements I was doing, because I wasn't used to listening to music. And like I said, for me, I have to be able to connect. I have to be able to connect to the music to understand what I'm doing musically. It was the same thing when I was learning Lindy Hop. So learning steps by themselves for me just doesn't work.
Right.
But yeah, so that's how I got into blues dancing, and the organization really, in a sense, changed many names, because it used to be called Juke Joint Shimmy Blues back in the days.
Okay.
When a woman named Heather Samuels was kind of in one of the organizers of the local New York event. So it was called that, and then another individual by the name of Sam Coleman kind of took it over for a little bit. And by this time, I was also starting to DJ the music as well. Well, at least DJ what I thought at the time was blues music, and it wasn't blues music. Let me just be very clear about that.
Understood.
Yeah. So, and then another person that kind of, took it over and really made it like her own, in a sense, was a wonderful woman by her name is Flower, who really like established what it is today, because she definitely had a lot more knowledge and skills when it comes to actually showing us different blues idiom dances.
Right.
Even though we really didn't call it blues idiom dances at that time, and And then as the scene grew, not just locally but also nationally, is where we started to get really more defined in exactly like what is blues idiom dances. What are they? Where do they come from? What is the history behind all of this? So as I said, so it was a transformation of things. So it wasn't just like all of a sudden, here it is, Blues Dance New York City, and now it's being run by a fabulous group of people, heading that with Melissa Cohen and other individuals as well, like John and Shoshi and Annie and Virginia. Just a whole slew of individuals and Lord Chieko, and just a whole slew of individuals that are helping making the scene what it is today.
Right, and I know Melissa is a great person.
Yes, she is.
And I know you guys have a lot of great, like King Solomon Hicks, and a whole bunch of people come down there and perform live.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess with that being said, my next question is, and please forgive me because I'm setting it up this way for a reason. How authentic is this experience, right? Because you got the live music, you got I'm assuming when you have live music, you DJ in the intermission, and the people are dancing throughout this whole thing. How is this experience?
The experience with the live music is great. It gets, no matter who we bring in, it gets a really good showing of the local dancers coming out for it, because it's live music. I mean, who wouldn't want to listen to live music?
Right.
It's technically it's like you're really getting a live. You go into a live concert. Is really how I equivalate that at a really great, reasonable price too. So having individuals come in that, let's say, might not attend our Friday night dances is, to me, is a good thing, because being exposed to it, however you get exposed to it, to me is a positive.
Right.
You just try, even if you're there just hanging out with a friend, or you're there because your friend dragged you to it, even if you don't know how to dance, but you're just hanging out at the bar at La Nacional, is you experiencing it is always a good thing, because then you can even go back to, that individual can go back to their friends and be like, oh yeah, I went to this blues dance thing where there was a live band and the band was really cool, and these people were doing this very interesting dance, and maybe that's something I might want to check out down the road, you know?
Right.
So the idea is that you're planting a seed in their head of possibly joining a dance art form that they might not have thought about before. So that's how I always see it as a positive thing. And then with the music during the band breaks, or even if it's a normal Friday night dance with the music, we've really made it a essential thing to make the majority of all the music played at our events blues music, so people can get used to hearing what blues music is supposed to sound like.
Right.
And so whether that's from like your Mississippi Delta, your Piedmont, your West Coast blues, to your Chicago style blues, or anything else in between, your Memphis style or St. Louis style blues, it's like, this is what blues music is supposed to sound like. In the beginning, to be completely honest, we were, as a whole, playing a little bit more fusion-y music than really like actual blues music. But once again, we didn't. A lot of scenes around the country really didn't know any better.
Right.
So, but now that has changed, and a lot of scenes do know better, and we really push towards like, no, we are playing blues. This is blues, whether it's gospel blues, jazz blues, which is very important. I forgot to throw that in there as well, and to our current state of blues music today.
Okay. Well, what is the most interesting thing you've learned in this journey of blues dance?
Wow. That's a lot. That is a lot. One of the things that I personally learned is how, and I might go off on a tangent here. I have a tendency of doing that a lot, so I apologize to you and the listening audience for the tangents.
That's quite all right.
But what I've learned is how connected everything is. So for me, and I got this from studying also like jazz music and dance history. But the reason that I personally always focus more on the social context and history is because that has a heavy influence and ties to the music and the dance.
Right.
Now I read your article about you dispelling the myth that blues music or dancing started on the plantations. And even though that is true, I always like to equate how the plantation was kind of the seeds for blues dancing and blues music.
Oh, absolutely.
So when I read that, I started to change how I described like the origins of this music and dance to not saying it started on the plantation, but more like the seeds of it started on the plantations or certain parts. Because, or if you want to go back even further, you can even talk about like, you know, the slave ships during this transatlantic slave trade.
Right.
But as far as for me, I usually started like I usually start my explanation of things like on the plantation, because that's a little bit more clearer, definitive examples of how certain things started to come into play.
Right.
So
it is the truth.
Yeah. It definitely is the truth. And I know some people want to go, well, you can go back even further to a lot of tribal and indigenous African nations and Caribbean island nations, which is true. Right. Because when they were brought over here, they brought over their customs and they tried to hold on to a lot of that just to be sane and normal and to communicate with one another, since a lot of times, a lot of slaves were put on plantations where they couldn't verbally communicate. Right. Same language-wise with each other, so they had to, in my mind, they had to find other ways to communicate, and music and dance was a way to do that. If certain plantations or regions around the country allowed their slaves to actually like be normal for a day.
Right.
And I use that word normal in the loosest term possible, especially when you're talking about times of slavery.
Right.
That's one of the things that I've learned, and I've tried to apply that with how I teach, not just blues, but also Lindy Hop as well. And what I've really taken away from all my research and research that I'm still doing is I've looked at the music and the dance as in how would an average black person do this dance. Not a professional dancer or professional musician, but how would an average, black person coming home from working at the A&P store, walking, 3+ miles to get home, and, walking past a neighbor's house and they have music playing, or someone's on the porch playing a banjo or guitar or whatever, and still having that last percentage of energy to just go and either relax with them or even just kind of like dance a little bit. Like how would they move at that moment if they're working a 9+ hour day for the most part?
Right.
So instead of thinking so heavily on the technique aspect of it, of, okay, am I doing this fishtail correct? Or am I doing the mooches or the grinds correct? Or technically correct. So by me learning all of that social context aspects of it really helped me change and have my own voice as an instructor, but most importantly have my own voice as a DJ, because I do DJ the music a lot.
Right.
So that's what I've mostly taken away from the research that I obtained by reading, talking to other individuals, white, black, or whoever, because you can gain valuable information from anyone, and there's always someone that knows more than you do. So,
that is true.
So always asking them if they wouldn't mind, me picking their brains, and I have done that from time to time. It has been beneficial to me, since I'm more of an audio-visual learner, not so much just reading a book all the time kind of individual.
Right. No, I totally get that, and I understand. And I would say, I guess as a disclaimer, first, thank you for reading my article.
Yes.
But I found it, or I thought that it was extremely important to write that article, not to separate the blues from the plantation, but to edify African Americans that blues is not slave music. It does descend from that, but it's actually the first, as you read, the first music of freed blacks. Which, kind of like what you said earlier in the conversation, when you were explaining how music evolves, this evolution was the stress or the relief of African Americans in this newly freed society.
Yeah, absolutely, and it also has to go with the fact of also looking forward to better times, right? That's what it's always been since day one of landing, you know, on this in this country, or right? So it's just more always about looking forward and ahead, and that's what the music represents, right? And exactly. Like all music is always about looking ahead in some way, shape, or form, reflecting of the past too, not forgetting where you came from, the good and the bad, but also looking ahead too as well, the good and the bad. So and the struggle that's going to incur with that, whether it's like employment wise with the job, personal, like, you know, family life, love life kind of situation, or just what's going on in society, right? That's a universal theme that everybody can relate to. The one thing that a lot of people can't relate to is specific cultural cultural issues, right? So I can't relate to a lot of the injustices that Japanese American or Asian Americans had to deal with during World War II, right? I can't fully relate to that experience. So if, you know, or if an Asian person or Latin person decide to sing a blues song relating to that kind of cultural experience, I can still appreciate it, even though I personally won't be able to relate to it. So then you have that as well, and it's all good. So yeah, it's important, and it's a really cool art form that I'm glad that I got introduced to back then, and it's a really fun thing to continue to do today. So yeah, it's cool.
Well, that's groovy. Now, where can the people find you and the organization and events in New York City?
So we do have our website, Blues Dance New York, which is also our Facebook group, Blues Dance New York. And we teach classes every Friday. We have 2 classes. We have a beginner class, and then we have an extended topics class, which I am teaching this month, actually an extended topic series this month on historical context and musicality. So this coming Friday will be on jazz and gospel blues for this coming Friday. Okay. And the first Friday of the month, I did acoustic and electric blues and kind of talked about the history behind that evolution a little bit. And I didn't have one last Friday because, along with a lot of New York City dancers, we were at Sweet Molasses Blues Exchange, which was in Boston, and which was a great event. And they do a great exchange every single year. I highly recommend going to it next year if you haven't been already. So that's where they can find me. I DJ for Blues Dance New York and also teach the lessons there. So just go on the website or go on the Facebook page. Like it. We also have a YouTube channel as well, which I believe is Blues Dance New York. So you can see some of the live video streams, and we also have a newsletter. So we have different ways which is on the website. So you have different ways of like staying informed and being up to date. We have our dances on Friday nights at Steppin' Out Dance Studios, which is, I believe, on 21st Street. I don't know. I kind of just like it's just automated in my head, so I just go there without really looking at like what street am I really on. So we have our dances every Friday night at Steppin' Out Dance Studios, where we have our two lessons. Our beginner lesson, where it's a different dance idiom that we teach, and our extended topics, where usually we have like a guest instructor come in or a really skilled local dancer teach the class. And the last Friday of every month, we have live blues music at La Nacional, which is on 14th Street between 7th and 8th Avenue, where we have a sampler lesson class, so you get a taste of different things in that class.
Well, that's groovy. That's very groovy, and it's not a surprise anymore. But one of the surprises I have for my wife is to join your class.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Definitely check it out. And like I said, all the instructors are really great, high level instructors that travel a lot, that have taught at different exchanges or blues dance exchanges, if not swing dancing exchanges around the country, if not the world. So definitely come check it out, and hopefully everyone else will check it out as well.
Absolutely, brother. It was great talking to you. We finally got to do
absolutely this. After months and months.
Yes, and we're going to do a follow-up soon, because there's other things that you touched on that I would like to elaborate. But this was a good beginning conversation.
Absolutely. Anytime, just let me know, and then we can confirm our schedules.
Jack Dapper Blues Public Media is a listener-supported platform. For more information on funding, underwriting, and sponsorship opportunities, please email Lamont Jack Pearlie at racefilmmusic.com or Denise Pearlie at racefilmmusic.com. All rights reserved to Jack Dapper Blues Heritage Preservation Foundation.